Sup people, Shiny Piece here, and welcome to Angry Weeaboo Version yells at Pride Month's favorite show. For those of you who weren't subbed to me on my previous account that was deleted for unknown reasons, I held a subscriber challenge where the winner would pick what animated show I review next. It ended in a tie, with one of the winners proposing I'd review Berserk 1997, and the other asking for a review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I don't remember the username of the second winner, and I don't know if they managed to refine me or even still care. But I later found out that there are two versions of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. JoJo got its first animated series back in 1993 as an OVA series, however it only covered the Stardust Crusaders arc, offering very little exposition to the events that happened beforehand in the manga. The second animated series debuted in 2012 as an anime that would retell the entire manga storyline so far, and at the time of scripting has adapted the first 5 parts of the story. Now, the winner didn't specify which version they wanted me to review, they just said JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Since I don't remember their username, and my account where they commented on was terminated, I can't confirm which version they wanted me to talk about. So I'm going to assume they meant the 2012 version, as it's the one that follows the manga more closely and is the one most people think of when they hear the title. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure 2012 is separated into 5 story arcs, the first 2 being in Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency, which are both condensed into one season, the third being in Stardust Crusaders, the fourth being in Diamond is Unbreakable, and the fifth one being in Vento Ario, which is currently airing. I'm breaking this review up into multiple parts for 2 reasons. 1. The anime isn't completed yet. At the time of scripting this video, the manga is still being published and as of yet has a total of 8 story arcs, and the 2012 anime so far has only covered 5. Because of this fact, I can't give my opinion on the anime as a whole, but I can give my opinion on each individual story arc available at the moment. The second reason being, this show is fucking long. There is no way I could cover it all in just one video, even if it was completed. Will I be reviewing every single arc? I can't make any promises, and I don't intend on reviewing the entire thing. But I'm definitely going to be reviewing Phantom Blood, Battle Tendency, and Stardust Crusaders. With that out of the way, let's get started with Part 1, Phantom Blood. As I said earlier, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is separated into multiple story arcs. In every arc, we follow members of the Joestar family. Save for a few exceptions, all of our protagonists coincidentally have a first name starting with Jo, giving almost all of them the nickname JoJo. For making sure no one's confused, I'll just be referring to the MCs by their first names instead of calling them all JoJo. Phantom Blood starts us off with the origins of the conflict that will happen through the rest of the show. It's like one of those long flashbacks you get during a shonen that explains why something is happening, only it happens at the beginning of the show and is just getting things out of the way. With that said though, Phantom Blood is a pretty weak start to the show. Let's just say that it was difficult writing a review for it, because it's so bland that I struggled to find anything noteworthy to say about it. It opens in the Victorian era with a carriage wreck where there appear to be no survivors. An old thief named Dario Brando takes the opportunity to loot the scene, where he finds that a man named George Joestar and his infant child Jonathan survived the crash. Dario covers his intent by saying he was there to help them, which makes George claim to be forever in his debt. While on the scene, we see an odd mask that suddenly grows spikes before we cut to a time skip. 12 years later, the Joestars are living healthy and happy, just being grateful for being alive. Here we get a glimpse of our main character Jonathan, whom I'll be referring to as Jonabland for reasons I'll explain in a bit. For the record, I'd like to express how weird it is that my spell check recognized that as a word. On the other side of the spectrum, Dario has become a bedridden alcoholic who's more interested in getting drunk than taking his medication, while his son Dio is having to be pushed around having to take care of him. We then cut back to Jonabland, who gets a very original introduction. An innocent woman is being bullied by 2 poo-poo heads when the kind-hearted hero swoops in and saves her, and I am fucking sick and tired of seeing this cliche in every single anime I watch. Just watch my Berserk review if you want to know why I hate this cliche. To the show's credit, they mixed it up a little bit by having Jonabland actually lose. He claims that the only reason he recklessly got into a fight he had no chance of winning was because it was the quote-unquote gentlemanly thing to do.
相手が大きいやつだからって負けると分かっているからって紳士は
I hope you find being a gentleman intriguing, audience, because that's going to be Jonna Bland's only character trait. We cut back to Dario on his deathbed, telling Dio to go to the Joestars after his death so he can get the debt owed to him. After spitting on Dario's grave, Dio moves in with the Joestars with the intent on getting their fortune for himself. While Dio seems to be polite around George, around Jonna Bland, he's anything but.
ジョジョ、君の家に厄介になるからといって僕に威張ったりするなよな。誰だろうと僕の前で威張らせはしない。
As Dio continues to live with the Joestars, he does whatever he can to ruin Jonathan's reputation by spreading slanderous rumors about him and upstaging him in nearly everything he does, earning him even his father's scorn.
ジョジョを無気力なふぬけにしてやる。そして次第に奴から全てのものを取り上げ、大人になる頃には
Every day, things get worse for Jonathan as Dio completely destroys everything good to him. The girl he saved earlier starts dating him. Dio kisses her, which makes her unable to even look Jonathan in the eye. He has a loyal dog that loves him to death. Dio downright burns him alive. The first couple episodes of Phantom Blood are basically a soap opera, but then once the mask we saw at the beginning comes into play, things go through a complete 360 and bring up the question if we're still watching the same show. Well, now's as good a time as ever to talk about our leads. Jonna Bland is probably the weakest protagonist in the show. He never seems to have a personality outside of just being polite. He blandly flows from one scene to the next and barely has any dynamic with the rest of the supporting cast. Also, this is kinda nitpicky, but his voice is really annoying. The dude is trying to be Yukikaji, but is just failing so badly. Dio is our main antagonist for the rest of Phantom Blood, and is the most enjoyable thing throughout it. Not only is he the definition of an evil genius with his cunning and deceitful demeanor, but can I take the time to talk about this top quality voice acting? A voice actor whose name I can't pronounce sounds like he's having the time of his life voicing an over-the-top villain. Every time he talks, it sounds like he's just relishing being evil. I want a personal recording of that line right now. No joke, I want that as my ringtone. In the next episode, we get a pretty cool intro that recaps the first episode and spoils a few things from future ones. Oddly enough, the second episode cuts ahead from a time skip that shows Jonna Bland and Dio getting along as if Dio stopped being a dick during the past 7 years.
今、ディオとあんな会話をしていたけど、正直僕は彼に対して友情を感じていない。まだ7年前の事件を疑惑し恐怖している。
Weird seeing you tolerate him at all, and weird seeing that Dio has seemingly stopped trying to ruin your life over the years. I thought the plan was to make him a nothing. Anyway, in the next scene, George has grown incredibly ill, just getting worse and worse. Meanwhile, Jonathan is researching the mysterious mask from the first episode and finds that it grows spikes whenever blood touches it. Aside from that, all he or anyone else knows about is that it apparently belonged to his late mother, which makes him even more curious about its origins. While he's in the library researching the mask, he finds a note that Dio supposedly left written by Dario, saying that he died of an illness eerily similar to the one George currently has. This newfound information gives Jonathan the idea that Dio is now poisoning George the same way he did his own father. When he confronts Dio about it, he inadvertently confirms his suspicion by cursing Dario's name.
Dio! 君の7年間の考えが分かった。僕らには最初から友情など存在しなかった。
No, you think? With his cover blown, Dio decides to leave the Joestars and go into hiding. Wait, no, that would be the smart thing to do. Instead, Jonna Bland apparently never tells anyone Dio was trying to murder George, so he's still living in the mansion. When the medicine was looked over, its origins apparently went to fucking London, where Dio was from initially. So Jonna Bland has to make a quick pit stop to get an antidote after telling George to only take medicine from certain doctors. Also telling him that Dio wants him dead probably would have been a good idea, but whatever floats your boat, man. While in London, Jonathan meets a group of street thugs being led by a man named Speedwagon. Aside from the first couple of scenes he has, Speedwagon is completely useless for the rest of Phantom Blood. I have no idea why he was even here. He was worthless and you all know it! Enamored with how gentlemanly Jonathan is, Speedwagon directs him to where Asian medicine is sold. Meanwhile, Dio has found out about the mask and plans to use its spikes to kill Jonathan when he returns. He tests the mask out on a random pedestrian, but instead of killing him, this is the weirdest thing I'm ever gonna say, it turns him into a vampire.
乾いて乾いてしょうがねえんだ。血が吸い取られてる。
Remember when I said this show goes through a complete 360? I wasn't kidding. From here on, the show's about big gay vampires, and oh boy, the stupidity that's about to follow. Jonna Bland quickly comes back to the mansion, cornering Dio, who's also just returned with the mask.
今追い詰められている。
As opposed to earlier, when he hadn't caught you, apparently. Dio intends to stab Jonathan to use his blood to activate the mask, but before he can cut him, George quickly shields him and is stabbed instead. We have a fake-out death where Dio at first seems to be dead, only to immediately become a blood-sucking vampire. Not only that, but he also has the ability to turn other people into vampires, because anime. After several failed attempts to kill the bastard, Jonna Bland gets the idea that the only way to kill him is to burn the house down, even if it means dying with him. We get a long fight scene that gives us some more beautiful Dio noises. My only life wish is to be reincarnated as anyone who was at the recording booth that day. 1,000 years later, the fight ends with Dio being stabbed and burned in the flames, with Jonathan miraculously making it out alive. So this is the end, right? Wrong. No, Dio's not dead. He has one more fake-out death before he's finally killed off. The villain taking forever to die is going to be a recurring thing in this series, by the way. And I just realized we still have 6 episodes to go before part 1 is over. Whoop-de-doo. In the next episode, Jonna Bland seems to be getting his life back in check as he's reunited with Irina, and their romance is immediately picked back up as if their separation never happened. They are quite perfect for each other as they both have as much personality as a sack of potatoes. It looks like the drama has finally come to an end before they meet an odd man who's able to cure Jonathan's wounds by violently thrusting his pinky finger into his lungs.
ほとんど痛みもない。こんな重い石も持てる。
This is Will A. Zeppeli, who informs Jonathan that Dio's still alive and still has the mask. He says that the only way to defeat Dio for real is to use an inner energy called Chi. I mean chakra, I mean magic breathing, I mean Hammon. A strong technique that can be used for healing or destruction and relies entirely on how the user breathes in order to harness the energy of the sun. Hammon isn't a terrible concept, but it doesn't live up to its potential until Battle Tendency. Right now, it's a generic anime superpower meant to give our MC some type of advantage. There are never any moments with it that are interesting or that explore it and its different uses. You remember that scene where Zeppeli healed Jonathan's arm? That's the only time we see it used to heal someone that isn't in a flashback anyway. From that point on, it's just used for fighting. They never do anything with Hammond that makes me think bullshit, but they never do anything with it that makes me think I want more either. It's just a plot device so that our MC can fight against Dio and his minions. Oh yeah, Dio's been making minions now, whom Jonathan has to fight for the next few episodes. I'll talk about them in a bit. Right now, I want to talk about Zeppeli. Let me be fair for a moment, he is the most interesting character in Phantom Blood. By default, anyway. Zeppeli was one of the first to encounter the mask and its powers on a ship during the night when his father inadvertently activated it. When the sun rose, killing him, the ship drifted away with the mask still inside, leaving Zeppeli to go to any means to find it and destroy it. How did the Joestars get the mask? I don't know, maybe it's explained in the manga. In the next few episodes, Jonna Bland has to fight several of Dio's minions. The only one that has any reason being there is the first one, because it was brief and it was used to show the result of Hammond's training. The next 2 fights are dragged out for way longer than they need to be. Dio's revived 2 nights for our protagonist to fight, and the next 3 episodes are extremely boring. But on the bright side, now I can talk about the aspect of this show that annoys me the most. Giving everyone a forced sad backstory. They try giving these 2 zombie knights a background that can make them somewhat sympathetic. But it only brings up the question, why would you at all try making these villains that have only been in 3 episodes and that we'll never see again sympathetic? Probably for the same reason they try to make this one throwaway character sympathetic. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that to lure our protagonist to the zombie nights, Dio has hypnotized a young boy named Poco to create a diversion, because vampire zombie things can apparently hypnotize people now. Poco is such a disinteresting character that I actually forgot his name when I was writing the first draft to this review. He only has one purpose in the entire show. No, he's not in any of the future arcs, and it's built up like it's the most dramatic and important thing ever to do. After the death of his partner, one of the zombie knights traps John Bland in a chain neck death battle, with the only way to save him being to decapitate his enemy. Zeppeli's been locked out of the building because he can't handle a stupid door.
破門法は悔しいことに破壊を目的としたものではない。
Clearly, the quickest way in is through a small hole on the wall that only Poco can fit through. So he does the only useful thing he'll ever do in his life and open the door for Zeppeli. And for some reason, they give him the motivation that he wants to stop being a coward because he was always bullied and his sister didn't want him to be a pussy. Question, why is this character who's only going to be useful this one time and never again given a sappy backstory that's trying to make him sympathetic? Isn't the motivation that if John Bland loses, his home will most likely be destroyed enough for him? In this same episode, we also get yet another sad background. In the past, Zeppeli's mentor told him that he was destined to die, and wouldn't you know it, the episode ends in a cliffhanger with Zeppeli ready to sacrifice himself. Step right up, everyone gets a free but stupid sad backstory. You get a sad backstory, you get a sad backstory, you get a sad backstory, and you don't get one. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that Speedwagon tagged along, mainly because I forgot he existed. I don't know why he's here. All he does is spout exposition, which the narrator could have done, and basically does all of the time during Battle Tendency. So yeah, I have no idea why Speedwagon's here. Guys, we're at the point where I'm starting to get mad at the show. Do I have to continue? In the next episode, Zeppeli gets injured in a way where he should have died almost immediately, but because anime, he lives long enough to give John Bland a Hammond energy surge, giving him the strength to end the fight with the zombie knight. And there goes the only character that was closest to being interesting. Then, just coincidentally, at the end of the episode, John Bland and the others meet Zeppeli's mentor, Tom Petty, as well as 2 of his other students. Because of course! What are the fucking odds? Alright, how many more episodes are left? 2? Alright, I can do this. Tom Petty informs the trio that Poco's sister has been taken captive by Dio, but John Bland comes in to save her before anything bad could happen to her. We then have a fight between John Bland and Dio that lasts throughout the episode, and if you missed anything, don't worry, Speedwagon will be there to give you exposition. Thank you. I never would have guessed that. The episode ends with Dio being burned alive and falling off of a building. Our heroes finally destroy the mask and believe that everything is finally over. But of course, it's not. We still have 1 episode left, and of course, it's bullshit. The last episode shows that to keep John Bland's Hammond from going to his head, Dio decapitated himself, with his head being found by one of his remaining Zominions. Meanwhile, John Bland and Irina are sailing off on their honeymoon, happy to finally be at peace. When their guard is down, the ship is attacked by a horde of zombies, being ordered by a Dio head and one of a new body, specifically Jonathan's body. Using some last-minute anime power-up, Dio hits Jonathan to where he can't breathe to charge up Hammond. With the last of his Hammond, Jonathan manipulates one of the zombies' dead bodies to hold onto the machinery, planning on destroying the ship.
シャフトの動きを止めることは可能。シャフトが止まればピストン内の蒸気の逃げ道はなくなり、圧力は高まる一方、圧力が鉄壁の耐久度を超えた時、船は爆発する。
Irina is prepared to die with Jonathan, but he tells her to escape with the baby still on board the ship. Before the ship even goes off, Jonathan is already passed on. He died as he lived, being more forgettable than a bowl of soup. Our story ends with Arena inside a chest with the surviving baby, looking onto a new story with the child forming inside of her and the life that she saved. I'm also looking forward to it because the future has to be less stupid than this crap. Overall, Phantom Blood is pretty boring. The characters are about as cookie-cutter and bland as you can get. Hammond is just another generic anime power, and the story isn't that interesting. It's not terrible, I wouldn't even call it bad, it's just bland and forgettable. As for its sequel, Battle Tendency, oh, don't worry, we'll get to that awesomeness when we get to it. With that, I'm out.